take a quick dinner break?
Especially with me. And I hear Jeff.
Before they arrest any of us.
I hear Jeff has.
Let's get that siren by, and then we'll start. Is this somebody's mask? Just letting the siren go by. Is the sound good? Is the sound high enough? Hello? Does it sound good? I don't know. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, let's go. I'm Richard Noble. Good afternoon, good evening. Happy Harvey Milk birthday. And I am here to recruit you, as Harvey would say, to full federal equality for the LGBT community. You know, I want to get out of my laundry list. Thank you, Drew LePage for graphics, Nicole Ramirez, who helped fund all this, Amy Blaisdell with the City of Palm Springs Communications Department, Jasmine with Parks and Recreation, Taylor right here, she helped me shop for a lot of this stuff, and Jeff Kors and Lisa Middleton and the rest of the City Council for this very important day. When I say I'm here to recruit you, I mean I'm here to recruit you. I'm here to recruit the Republicans in the Senate to pass the Equality Act. I'm here to recruit every LGBT community and ally, family member, peer, co-worker, community member across this nation to reach out to their senator and to support President Joe Biden as he wants to sign the Equality Act into law, which will bring gender identity and sexual orientation in equal proportion to sex, race, national origin, color, and religion. What broke my heart is reading that 350 transgender members of our community were murdered last year, burned, shot, and stabbed. 44 in the United States this year. Lives taken for absolutely no reason. You know, in 1965, on March 7th, my good acquaintance John Lewis crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where he was met with police batons, biting German shepherds. Can somebody help the flag, please? Biting German shepherds, police batons, and water hoses. And he survived to later on become a member of the U.S. Congress. And he supported the passage of the Equality Act. And part of this day is dedicated to him. Abraham Lincoln once said, and I quote, whenever I hear anyone argue for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see it tried on them. And when I wrote my speech for the Equality Act at the College of the Desert, I used that quote. And it doesn't mean that we really want to see slavery or harm caused to anybody, but what it does is it brings to reality the members of the U.S. Senate who are using the Olympics and school sports to attack the gender identity in our civil rights laws and the transgender community. And what they need to do is they need to come out of the closet, come out of denial, and to love and accept the transgender members of their community and pass the Equality Act into law. I am sick of hearing about murders and stabbings locally, nationally and internationally of the transgender community. It is not acceptable, and we're not going to tolerate it, and we're going to unify with our families and members of the community, the gay and lesbian community and the bisexual community, and all of our straight friends and allies to make sure that the Equality Act gets passed into law. We are supporting the House that passed it, we're supporting the President that wants to sign it into law, and we're supporting every member of the Senate that supports it, and we are supporting every member of the Senate and the Republican Party that is on the verge of changing their mind, who wants to come out and support this law and get it over to the President's desk. And we want it done immediately. Clap. Yeah. So I'm not, I wonder to myself, where is our Martin Luther King of today? And where is our Harvey Milk of today? Well, their voices have been silenced by murder. and it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in the freest country in the nation. I don't know if you listened to the Senate hearings on the Equality Act, but that night I turned on MSNBC, not dishing any of the local media here, but I turned on MSNBC, and there was not one mention of the Senate hearing on the Equality Act that night. I don't get it. So I'm going to introduce some speakers who have graciously come out to talk about the issue that we have here. And that specific issue is gender identity and the transgender community and the Republicans in the Senate who are sitting on the Equality Act and not protecting American citizens for who they are. So our first speaker is Mayor Pro Tem Lisa Middleton, who is a transgender woman who helped make the city of Palm Springs, with Councilman Kors and all of our friends, become the first city in the country to be the first LGBT city council ever elected into government. So I welcome Lisa Middleton.
First, I want to thank Richard and everyone who was responsible for putting today together, and most particularly, I want to thank all of those with the City of Palm Springs who gave so much in order to be able to put this together. We stand here today, as countless others have throughout the lifetime of our republic, standing for something very simple: equality under law. Today we are here to bring visibility to the actual lived experience of transgender Americans. While it is in part true that never before have transgender people been so much in the news, it is also true that what we hear so often is politically driven by right-wing extremists long opposed to LGBTQ+ equality. The orchestrated and hypocritical attacks on transgender children and their parents are the product of the Heritage Foundation, the Alliance for Defending Freedom, the Family Policy Alliance, and their allies. Today, we as transgender people are their preferred target, but let us make no mistake. It is the equality of anyone in the LGBTQ+ community that they deplore and oppose. When 2 decades ago, it was municipal non-discrimination ordinances that were at issue, they called our quest for equal protection under law special rights. When the issue was civil unions, they argued that we would destroy marriage. When we achieved marriage equality, they argued our marriages were an affront to their religious freedom. Today, the Equality Act passed by the House sits in the Senate blocked by the very same coalition that has opposed LGBTQ equality every single step of the way. Never has it been more important for all of us within the LGBTQ+ community to stand together. The harm is real. The Trevor Project reports that 1 in 5 transgender children attempted suicide within the last year. What kind of bravery, or lack thereof, does it take for an adult sitting in a state legislature to pick on a transgender child? Yet there are over 30 bills in state legislatures across the country targeting transgender children, their parents, and their physicians. In 2020, the Human Rights Campaign reports 44 transgender Americans were murdered. Every 8 days, another transgender person is murdered in our country, usually a transgender woman, far too often a transgender woman of color. Every 8 days. Transgender children and their parents seek the same opportunity that every child and their parents seek: the love and protection of family, the ability to learn and grow, the opportunity to achieve. In spite of the efforts to oppose our equality in the arts, in business, in education, at work, and yes, even in politics, transgender people are thriving as never before, living out our authentic life and taking leadership within our community. The pain we've experienced is real. The lost lives will always haunt us. But our strength is also real. Our resilience is real. And our commitment to living out our authentic life and revealing the truth that is within us, that is eternal. Thank you.
And next I'd like to introduce somebody who I love with all my heart, a former executive director of Equality California, and as senior legal counsel to the National Center for Lesbian Rights, our wonderful council member, Jeff Kors.
And thank you, Richard, for always wanting to organize and get visibility for so many people who are marginalized by society and all your work that you've done. So thank you. First, I just want to start with something on a positive note, which is how fortunate those of us who live in California and especially Palm Springs are. That we have a community where it took till 2017, but we elected the first transgender political official in California with Lisa Middleton. And thank you for running and standing up. And where we are the only city that I'm aware of in the country that has an equal benefits ordinance that requires any contractor to provide equal benefits that's transgender healthcare inclusive. And that's the kind of thing we do here at the local level that we hope will spread, not just in California, but throughout the country. But also really angry, and listening to Lisa and Richard made it more so. There are 250 anti-LGBTQ bills, 40 targeting just transgender people in state legislatures across the country. 8 or more have already been signed into law. And they target transgender children, denying them medically necessary health care, denying them the right to participate in school programs. This is what we're up against. And it's 3 times more than in the last 3 years combined. And why is that? It's because they're starting to see a little progress. And the other side, and I'll say it, most Republicans are looking at another wedge issue. Just as they're going after people of color, just as they're going after immigrants, now they're going after the transgender community. And it's up to all of us to speak up on that. The Senate this year has a chance to pass the Equality Act, and that's so important. But we are up against a huge fight. By one vote, just one vote, the Senate didn't pass a motion that would have denied school districts any money for anything if they allowed transgender students to play sports consistent with their gender identity. One Republican, Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, didn't vote for that bill. One. So, to those I know, some people I still like who are Republicans, I want to say this. When you say you support transgender rights and LGBTQ people, when you say you support the rights of people of color and immigrants, yet you give money and vote for Republicans, you need to pick up the phone and call them. Because every time government acts in a way that demonizes any community, that says that any community is less than the rest of us, that gives license to people to act and commit violence and the murders that we're talking about today. Those words matter, those acts matter. When the very government that's designed to protect us says that one group of people or several groups of people are less than everyone else, that is why we have hate crimes. So I ask everyone, pick up your phone, make those calls. We need to do the work. And I just want to thank all the transgender people who are out here living their lives authentically every single day in this challenging environment, because each of you is why we're going to eventually get there to full equality. So thank you all for your bravery and your courage and all that you do. And thank you.
right. I want to just tell one little story before I introduce the next person. And that is when I walked across the United States in 2011 and 12. Uh-oh, we have more sprinklers. Watch out. Okay. Can you get that machine wet? I hope it doesn't get the machine wet. Maybe move it on this side of the street. Surprise. Lauren Scott was a transgender woman, just to bring you back to the issue at hand. And why I first identify as two-spirit, which is a term Harry Hay taught me, who was to me a grandfather of the LGBTQ community, and a rainbow warrior, and a radical fairy, and just somebody I loved. I've been camping with him, and he started the Mattachine Society in 1950. They have staircases in Silver Lake, LA, in honor of the Mattachine Society. Anyways, the reason I walked across the state of Nevada with a rainbow flag is because Harry was blessed there by a Native American Paiute prophet named Lavoka in 1927 when he was just a little kid. And he did not know he would grow up to become a great friend of the people. But Harry, in your great spirit, I welcome you here today, and I recruit your spirit here today to come join us as the march still continues. So when I walked across the state of Nevada, as I got close to the border, I got a Facebook friend named Lauren Scott, a transgender woman who lived in Reno, and she picked me up and she spent massive amounts of money at REI to make sure I had food, water, toiletry items, coffee, and she spent a week and a half driving across the state of Nevada in her truck, bearing every 10th mile marker food and water and gasoline and supplies so that I could survive walking across the state of Nevada. That was a transgender woman. And don't ever men tell me, what did she say? So I was in a campground, she pulls up in her truck and she says, don't ever rely on a gay man to do a trans woman's job. And I said, because she found me in her GPS in the middle of the night. These headlights were shining at my tent, honking at me to wake up. So I love transgender women and men, and what a blessing to have in our life, transgender people. And I recruit you to welcome them into your life and into our Palm Springs community. All right, our next speaker is Council Member Dennis Woods.
Good afternoon, Palm Springs. Good afternoon, Trans Palm Springs. Let these flags, I think there are 300 and well above 300 of them representing the trans people who have been murdered in the last year alone. And that doesn't include the numerous trans people that have been harassed and ridiculed just for being who they are. But let this be a reminder that hate still exists. Let it be a reminder that we need to overcome hate and ignorance with love, compassion, and enlightenment. This is a travesty. Every time I look at these flags, I'm saddened by knowing that people just to be who they are murdered, absolutely murdered. So I ask each of you just to remember anybody who's been ridiculed, to defend, to stand up and say something. Let it be a reminder to all of us to be human, to other people, including, and in particular, our trans people. Thank you very much.
Oh, here we go. All right, so I want to recruit to full equality, somebody who really doesn't need an introduction in our community, the CEO of Transgender Health and Wellness Center of the Coachella Valley, Tommy Clinton.
I still have to first give a good compliment for the dogs for Dennis. That was very nice. We opened the first Transgender Health and Wellness Center in Cathedral City, and now we've relocated in Palm Springs, and we serve the largest amount of transgender people. We've had thousands come through our doors and contact us over the last few years. One of the most heartbreaking things that's happened to me is I'm often nicknamed Mommy Tommy now because I'm getting older, and one of my little ones their sister called me crying because she hung herself. And it was the day before Valentine's Day, and I talked to the family, and the violence and the oppression that individuals feel is, I'm short, I'm sorry. The violence and individuals feel with inequity and inequality really takes a large toll on the trans individuals. We did a survey. We found that over 80% of them are contemplating suicide right now during COVID. And 54% in the Inland Empire have attempted. The Equality Act, I believe, will help with a lot of that. It will help with creating a level of equity that trans people can finally be equal. It's something that they have been striving for since Stonewall. And 51 years later, after Stonewall, trans people are still trying to access health care, the bathrooms, to get employment, and be able to walk down the street in safety. As I look around here, there's not many trans people. And that's because a lot of us are in fear. When you reach over 40 murders in less than 6 months in America, compared to last year, which was 24 in a full year, it's making people very anxious and very guarded. This is a time that we need for our allies to really come together and support the trans community and the trans leaders of our community to create change and create a silo which is safe in your own communities with your community leaders. And we have to keep our community leaders accountable. Those who are voting against people having access to equity, to have the ability to have housing or to access health care or to get a fair paying job, it's critical for these individuals to reach equality. Often I hear from my elders, because although I'm old, I have people older than me like Jeff, is that we are very much like the gays and lesbians were in Stonewall. Around that time, when all the horrific things were going on and the uprisings were coming and individuals were asking for just to be equal, is very much like what the trans community is going through now. And thank you for the gays and lesbians who have paved the roadways for trans individuals to reach it faster. If it wasn't for them, the trans community would be facing a lot of systemic barriers. But each of us need to take our opportunities in our time. Come to like the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Learn about your community. The individuals being murdered, it's really about stealing their happiness. That is really what murder is about, is taking someone's happiness away. Affecting that family's feeling of being able to have happiness. And if we as a community do not create safe spaces for individuals, then it's just going to revert back to what the gays went through in the 80s and in the 60s. And we want to make sure that everyone in the LGBT community gets on the boat and they get to come together and be one big family. We need to unify and we need to basically work together to find common solutions to increase equity and equality within our community. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, thank you, Tommy. And I want to recruit Karina Samala from the City of Los Angeles Transgender Advisory Council to full federal equality.
Thank you for that nice introduction, and good afternoon to all. Like you know, my name is Karina Samala, a proud transgender woman. What an honor to be with you today and to be invited to speak at this wonderful Equality for All Transgender Pride event. We are entitled to more legal protection, more safety, less refusal of service or benefits because we do not fit the majority's perception of gender. When the LGBTQ community stood up at Stonewall in 1969, I was a teenager back in the Philippines. While I dreamed that the United States would be more tolerant and accepting of trans people, I was not surprised when I encountered hatred and intolerance here, similar to what I saw growing back in the Philippines. Despite this, I saw opportunity here to work for change and saw the possibility to be helping to achieve equality for the trans community. It was with that hope in my heart and belief in this country that I found the strength to first, to come out and live openly as my true self and to pursue my passion as an advocate for the community. I've been advocating for the transgender people for over 25 years with the goal of increasing the safety for transgender community, reducing violence towards trans people in the LGBT community, and demanding equality for trans people and holding those in power accountable for delivering equality for trans people. I have been the president of the board of directors at Imperial Court of Los Angeles and Hollywood, a chapter 1 of the country's oldest LGBT organization, and I serve on the Transgender Advisory Board of West Hollywood and also serve as chair of the Los Angeles City Transgender Advisory Council. For over 25 years, I have been a part of a group called Midnight Stroll. We walk the streets of West Hollywood during the late midnight hours tomorrow morning, check with trans women sex workers who are some of the most vulnerable people on the streets. We distribute condoms and protect their health. We act as their advocates. I am honored to have been given the nickname Mother Corina by these girls. Helping these girls on the streets has been the most important and gratifying work of my life. I have seen the best and the worst of human behavior towards the trans community on the streets of Hollywood. I've seen violence against trans women stemming from ignorance and misunderstanding. And I've seen mob mentality and random acts of cruelty and violence against us engaged in for sport by people threatened by the bare existence of the members of the community. I've seen people determined to keep these women in poverty and in fear for their lives. I've seen these women ignored or marginalized by people who should be protecting them. But over time, through the persistence of courage of our community, I've seen changes in this folks. We have worked closely with the police, and the police enforcement have listened. We increase our resources to protect our community and improve the training and their officers to learn to treat us not with suspicion, but with the same respect given to members of the larger community. We are now seeking greater prosecution of hate crimes against trans individuals who would never have been pursued in the past generation. Progress has been slow but steady, and I believe this process will continue. This process will continue as long as we continue with what I call the 3 V's. That we are vocal, that we are vigilant, and that we vote. As long as we engage in these 3 V's, we cannot be ignored. The second part of the title of tonight's program is the Trans Pride. So, the evolution of the trans community and the development of trans pride in my lifetime has been inspiring. I've seen unbelievable courage from many trans women that never cease to inspire me. I've seen some of these girls who are frequently some of the worst vulnerable and at risk of all at their community. I stand up against mistreated, sick basic human needs and speak out to display a growing pride and refusal to be treated as second-class citizens. We now speak out and demand, rather than just secretly hope for, respect for our fellow citizens, law enforcement, and our government, and we hold those in power accountable who do not provide these basic services that so many of the larger community have the luxury to take for granted. We in the trans community deserve to be proud. We have overcome obstacles that others cannot fathom. Murderous hate, open and subtle discrimination, designed to keep us in the shadows. None of those obstacles have stopped us. Overcoming those obstacles have made me stronger. I'm proud to be a member of the trans community, and I'm proud to stand with all of you. Equality for all is what the trans community aspires to be free from hatred and unequal treatment. We will never repeat from the gains that we have achieved and pride. We feel that we not rest until we obtain full equality for the trans community. Not only can this country truly proclaim there is equality for all. And I'd like to make a moment of silence for those 360 lives, transgender lives, that we lost this year. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Karina. That was beautiful. I remember as a kid going into, it used to be called the Gay Center on Highland in LA. And those girls would come into the center to get clothes and food, and they were children of the night. They were children of the night, and they really are a community that deserves all of our love and support and money and funding and help and visibility. And you touched me a lot, so thank you so much. Our next speaker is, I'm happy to announce, is Lucky Alexander, founder of Invisible Men.
Hello, like you said, my name is Lucky Alexander and I am the founder of Invisible Men. It's an organization that supports trans men because often we're left out of so many of the equations. Like our trans folks as a whole are left out of those equations. But today, I'm coming to y'all as a father, okay? I am a father, a trans man, an entrepreneur, a city council member, all of these things. But today, I'm a dad because there are so many trans kids that don't have what they need, okay? They're being denied being able to play sports. They're being denied being able to be themselves in an environment that they should be themselves in any environment, okay? As a trans dad, okay, that has raised children, if we don't pass this Equality Act for no one but the children, let's do that. But for the rest of my community, I know very well the pain, the violence, the hurt. I have transitioned over 10 years, and I've been beaten. I've been raped. I've been taken advantage of on all levels, so I know what that pain feels like. I am a survivor of that, and I'm tired of being a survivor. I want to thrive. Okay, at the end of the day, equality equals respect. At the end of the day, equality means equity. At the end of the day, equality means life, being able to live the way you are and for who you are. It doesn't make sense that we have to fight for this. Okay, black trans women started the fight. Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, trans women of color were the ones that started this movement. And we need to recognize and be there for them and make them proud. So let's find equality for everyone. Okay, we shouldn't have to fight for something that is already inherent to us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lucky. Okay, another story. When I was in Bangalore about 20 years ago, and I heard about a eunuch village, and I didn't know what a eunuch was, but it's a group of men that live as women, and some are castrated, and they pray to this goddess Kali for fertility rights and what have you. And I asked in Bangalore, India, where is the eunuch village? And they said it's in Madras. So I got on a train, and I went to Madras, and I walked around the streets of Madras asking people to show me where the eunuch village was. And I eventually found them, and they were in two huts, and these girls were living in saris, and they invited me in for a little chicken dinner. And one of her names was Nuri, And Nori was the one that sort of welcomed me into the eunuch village. And I was just so thrilled to be there. Anyways, I went up to Calcutta and I took a trip up into the Himalayas. And 25 years later, I see her on the news that India is one of the greatest AIDS activists in the country of India. And that just goes to show you why I love this community so much. We are all equal with dignity, and we should all be equal under the dignity under the law. Am I stumbling over myself? Next, I want to recruit to full federal equality Nicole Murray Ramirez from San Diego, County Commissioner, was President for Equality California, and chaired the International Imperial Court Council of the United States, USA, Canada, and Mexico, and who this day wouldn't have happened without her support. So, Nicole, come on up. Big round.
Good afternoon, buenos dias. It's good to be back in Palm Springs, probably one of the most progressive cities in the United States. You should give yourselves a round of applause for that. You have made this city what it is today. And being from San Diego, we're kind of jealous because you're taking all our tourists. For me personally, it's good to see my longtime friend, Councilman Jeff Kurz, a longtime respected civil rights activist and the man that definitely built Equality California. It's good to see you, Jeff. Today I'm representing the International Imperial Court System of Canada, the United States, and Mexico, with chapters in 70 cities. It is the oldest organization in North America, founded in 1965. I was alive. How many of you were around in 1965? Were alive? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. You know you were alive. By World War II veteran Jose Julio Sierra. I'm here with my national co-chair. Terry, wave your little hand over there. He's in the cowboy hat. You know, tomorrow is Harvey Milk's birthday. I had the honor of working with Harvey in the 1970s against the homophobic campaigns of Anita Bryant and John Briggs. Many wonder, you know, what if Harvey was alive today? What would he be like? What would he do? I know he would be taking a strong and visible stand against those trying to erase our trans community. I know Harvey Milk would join my international organization in our call to the national LGBTQ leadership and organizations in this nation to make these continuing attacks and murders against our transgender citizens, to declare them and declare in our community a national LGBT crisis. The national LGBT leadership and organizations must stop giving token support and make these murders and attacks against our trans sisters and brothers a national LGBT crisis now. We must make it clear that attack on any LGBTQ American is an attack on all of us. And in this light, we of the LGBTQA+ community want to also make something very clear. We of the LGBT community stand in solidarity with the Asian Pacific Islander community against the growing hate crimes against them. We of the LGBT community stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and join them in calling for police reform and a complete overhaul in our criminal justice system. And we absolutely stand in solidarity with our Jewish community, as the ADL National Director today announced that in the last week and the last days, attacks on Jewish synagogue centers, businesses, and restaurants across this nation has skyrocketed and are growing every hour. Indeed, a hate crime against any American is a hate crime against all of us. Thank you. And now I would like to present, come here, Noble. That's a really nice name. In 1979, after Harvey was assassinated, having worked with him, it really, in many ways, all of us that knew Harvey, it broke our hearts. So I established an award in his honor. It is the oldest award in the entire United States that honors, even before San Francisco gave an award, started an award. It's called the Harvey Milk Civil Rights Award. And it is my honor to present it to a man that is truly, if you looked up activist in the dictionary, you would see the name of Richard Noble. Thank you.
The night I started walking across America, thank you, Nicole, I slept on the sidewalk in my sleeping bag at Harvey Milk's library before walking to the Golden Gate Bridge, unfurling the rainbow flag, and making the 15-month, 3,000-mile trek. So thank you. All right, our final speaker for the night, is Jeff coming back? Is he coming back? Is Jeff coming back? Bye, Jeff. This is our main speech, or our last speech for the night. First of all, Council Member Dennis Woods, and Mayor Pro Tem Lisa Middleton, I want to recruit you into passing a resolution in June on behalf of the transgender community to the Senate to pass the Equality Act. I recruit you to do that for the month of June. Pass a resolution to support the passage of the Equality Act for the transgender. Yeah, I wrote the first one. I know you did it. All right, so this is very exciting. We have a retired Army major who is transgender, who's here all the way from San Diego, who's written our main speech, Veronica Zare. Did I say that right?
It takes me a while to get my words together. I really am humbled tonight because everybody else behind me was just so eloquent, and if I can do half as well as they did, I would have succeeded. If you'll bear with me, I have to put on some different glasses because I can't read with my sunglasses on. I want to start out with letting everybody know our democracy is in danger. All right? From my experiences in the military, it's easy to follow one person. It's easy to follow one party. It's easy to follow somebody that's telling you that the news is not true. Because if you tell somebody a lie often enough, they will believe it. Democracy takes work. It takes conscious thought. Democracy takes planning. It takes study. It takes the hard work of citizenship. And Richard has a great term. It's called recruitment. And I challenge every single one of you to be a citizen. Exercise your citizenship. Know what the citizen does. Know what the citizen is. Because the individuals that I have buried, they deserve that. And if you don't, shame on you. Our collective future depends on that. I devoted nearly 23 years of my life to America through my service in the military. I had the honor of leading some of the best and brightest young people in this nation. I will never know anyone better. Our American troops will give you everything they have until they are completely spent. And then they will give you more. They will give you more. And all they asked of me, and all they asked of their other officers, was that we treat them fairly, equitably, and lead them competently. Their sense of fairness translates into the senses of fairness throughout this nation. Because I know that the men and women that I commanded when I was in the military, they came from places like Friendly, Tennessee, Kearsarge, Iowa, okay? Hoxie, Kansas, all right? And they all had the same thing. They knew when they were being bamboozled. They knew when they were being bullshitted, all right? Their sense of fairness came from their parents. And that is why I trust the American people so deeply. Because you can fool the American people partially, but you can't fool them all the time. Our community, our state, our nation is at a crossroad right now. I firmly believe this. We are faced with the choices of two futures. One future under authoritarian rule by a minority government, and that whose only platform is to seize power by any means necessary. Or you can have the country that is pro-democracy, led by such people as people on the right like Liz Cheney and our current president and vice president, President Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris. In every single military operation that I was in, there is something called a decision point, where you can go left or you can go right, or you can go back or you can go forward, or you can go up or you can dig in for a defense. One way or another, you have to make a decision. It's called a decision point. This country is at that decision point. Please understand that. In about a year and a half, we will go to the polls and choose either of the societies that I just outlined a few minutes ago. One that pushes white supremacy and male chauvinism, or one that is embarking on creating a beautiful society that is, whose basis is multiculturalism and multiracialism. The world needs this paradise called America. Once again, the young men and women that I have seen buried, they deserve that. I don't know where you stand out there, but I put my faith in the efforts of this republic. I put my faith in a multiracial, a multicultural, and a multi-religious society. Let us build that society, because it is, I believe this, it is the beacon that we can show to the rest of the world. Because let me tell you right now, I mean, everybody's been hearing about Senator Ted Cruz and how he thinks the American military has become, what, emasculated or wimpish or something like that, right? He shows these big hulking Russian guys, right? Well, let me tell you what, a 5'4" parts load list specialist with an accurate shot from an M16 is going to put that son of a gun in the ground, okay? But it's not going to happen without your participation. We need to pass that Equality Act, because democracy, the rule of law, it takes structures. And that's what the Equality Act is. It is a structure that says you can't throw somebody out of school just because of their gender identity. I don't know what goes through the minds of these state legislators in places like Tennessee and Montana. But when I'm in the bathroom, all I want to do is use the loo, wash my hands, check my hair, maybe put on a little bit more lipstick, and leave. That's all I want, okay? It's gotten so bad that I've heard that some southern states are considering something called a panty check. You can help the trans community. You can help the trans community by exercising your citizenship. Pass that act. Lobby your representatives to pass that act, because it will help the trans community ultimately. So, how do you citizen? One thing is you register to vote. I shouldn't have to list these, but plan to vote, know how to vote, know where to vote, read about the most important issues that affect you, that affect your locale, and affect our nation. You have a weapon in your arsenal, and it's called the vote. To not vote is like a warrior going into battle and never firing his or her weapon. We have enemies that want to cancel us. They want to cancel this beautiful society that we are in the process of giving birth to. And I believe that with the bottom of my heart, that we are inches away from creating a beautiful society, a society based on what the Reverend King once said, the content of people's character. We all need the Equality Act, as I said, because people are only as honest as watch cats. The Equality Act will make illegal discriminatory behavior. Businesses that harass who do not serve blacks or Hispanics, Asians, or LGBT people, they will be unable to do that. But there's another reason. The most important one to demand passage of the Equality Act, it represents the very best that America has to offer. Because we are saying in our collective voice, we value diversity. We value multiculturalism. We value equality. And we're not going to let any tin pot dictator from another country try to manipulate our country into electing a group of thugs and a group of thieves. So I'm going to leave you tonight with something that one of my soldiers once told me. We were in the desert up here at Fort Owen. We had spent 3 weeks in the bowl, and we were exhausted. And I looked at him and I said, Henry, I said, how in the hell are you? And he just looked me in the eye and he said, LT, I just keep on keeping on. So please keep on keeping on. Be that citizen. Take that citizenship seriously, because you are my heroes. Thank you very much.
All right, so we are here to recruit you. We are here to recruit you, Palm Springs, to full federal equality for the LGBTQ community. And that sort of brings our press conference to a close. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Thank all these people holding the banner back there. Thank you so much. Awesome. And if you see and thank you to all our speakers and media. Thank you for coming. The Desert Sun, KESQ, I love the pink tie, I love you. All of our media, thank you for coming. This is a really important message to get out and to share with the community. A lot of it is to desensitize people around the transgender issue, make it a human issue, make it an issue that people know that they have to vote on, and carry this voice, this message across the land. Let this not be the last day 350 transgender flags go up in a park. Let's do this again, but for other reasons, not for murder, but for life and celebration of the passage of the Equality Act, or other state legislature bills that are attacking the transgender community and kids. Unbelievable that moms or dads in House legislatures are writing bills to attack transgender kids. It's a disgrace, it's disgusting, and it has to stop, and it has to stop with us. We have to stop it. It's murder! It's not okay. It's not okay to walk up to a transgender person in the inner city who's a sister of the night, trying to make her living, and shoot her in the chest with a gun. That's not okay. It's not okay to have a domestic dispute, to grab a knife, and to think that your partner is transgender and it's okay to stab them. It's not okay, and I'm angry about it. And I hope you get angry too. It's not okay. It's heartbreaking. Oh, I better just... That's how I feel. And Harvey Milk, in your memory and in your great voice, in our democracy, for all that you've done for us, and all that you will continue to do in your voice for equality, we are going to plant 350 trans flags right there, just like they're put in the grass here. We'll walk those over and put them in the big park. There are American flags that are going to go on the outside of the park, and I have 6 stakes that are going into the ground And we're going to put Pass the Equality Act up all weekend for the whole town and nation to see. Take pictures, send them to your grandparents, send them to your brothers and sisters, send them to media around the country, send them to dictators across the sea, send them everywhere you can. As a matter of fact, if you know Elon Musk and you can get one in the space station, put it up there in the sky. Get a rainbow flag and a transgender flag on the moon. Take it to Mars, Elon Musk, because we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender and two-spirit Americans. We are here to stay. We want equality. We want it all. We want it now. Get your ass off the seats in the Senate and pass the Equality Act. I love you all. Thank you for coming. So let's get this park going. Let's get over there and plant some flags. Have a beautiful weekend. Take somebody out to dinner. Make sure you hug the trans people behind me. Let them know how much you love them. And let's have a wonderful weekend. Happy Harvey Milk birthday weekend, everybody.
You guys ready?
So what we're going to do is we're going to walk the trans
Richard, you want to take it off the stand and I'll videotape?
Yeah. And if you can help us take all these trans flags, if somebody could grab a pile, a handful, what I want to do is pace them every fourth step. So when you push one into the ground, you're going to walk 4 paces and push another one into the ground. And all the American flags are going to go on the perimeter. Let me show you how to do it really quick. Watch me, everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Have an American flag.
I get a little upset, I'm sorry.
No, it's good to see the fashion.